The striking purple of prairie asters and the bright orange flowers of marigolds along a roadside or in a field. Oh my God. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us for another episode of Nerdy Jobs. I'm here at Bee Country with the Warners. Hello everybody, thanks for having us here at your farm.
Yeah, thanks for
I'm
coming.
joined with my co-host, Annika. And we're here to learn about bees. So, what's there to know about bees?
First of all, they're responsible for a third of our food. They're extremely important, and we need to protect them, and that's how we got started. We tried to save the bees. And when we got our first hive, we bought our first hive, the guy literally handed it to us, and we understand now he was so busy that he just handed it to us and went back to work.
Yeah.
We had no idea what we were doing, so when Mike got involved, we decided we were going to be there for people to help them when they get started, and that's where the nucleus colonies come in. And I was just going to have maybe 50 hives until my son got involved, and now we have between 500 and 700 hives.
And there's really a lot of people that have taken up to it, and then they love having a hive or two in the backyard. So that's where pretty much our business has turned into that, where we're really trying to gear ourselves towards helping beginner beekeepers.
So I heard you say nucleus colony, and I'm a molecular biologist, so we study cells and everything in it. And I know the nucleus is where the DNA is. It's like where all the instructions are for the cell. What's a nucleus colony as it pertains to beekeeping?
It's a mini complete hive. It has everything that the bees need to expand, and basically it's a little easier to transport. So that's how you start people, as you give these nucleus colonies to beginners to take home and put in their backyards and start beekeeping. And
Wow.
In that it'll have the
there.
queen, the brood, honey, empty frame, just everything they need. You know, they don't have to go and buy a queen and put it in and hope for the best. It's all set to go.
A nucleus colony will probably only have maybe 5,000 to 7,000 bees in it, which right now the colonies are in the range of 60,000 bees.
So where do the other bees come from? Are they born from the hive, or do other bees from other hives migrate to the nucleus colony and then they start being friends?
That's where the queen comes in. Why she's so important to a colony. She's laying anywhere from like 1,000 eggs to 1,500 eggs a day. And right now it's so vital because once they start foraging, they only live 2 weeks. So it's a turnover. Right now, there's just as many bees dying as she's making. In the springtime, it's all a build-up thing.
Okay.
She makes more than actually die.
So what are these different jobs? What do they mean? Nurse bees, housekeeping bees?
When they're first born, that's nurse bees. They take care of all the other bees, and they basically feed the really young ones. And then there's actually certain ones that just feed. The queen doesn't feed herself. She actually gets fed. You might then protect the hive, or you might just start foraging. It actually depends on what the colony needs. If they need food, then everybody converts to foragers. And even they'll do it a little quicker than usual, and they'll have like 3 weeks of flying. But most of the time, the flying is actually what kills them.
They literally fly themselves to death, making so many trips. Because it takes they got to visit like 1 million flowers to make a teaspoon of honey.
Oh. So I have a question for you, my special co-host. So we just learned that bees can adapt new behaviors based on the needs of the colony, and I want to know, how do they adapt these behaviors? Is it through chemical signaling by pheromones? Is it instinctual? What's going on there?
Yeah, so it's probably a combination of a lot of those things. Bees are constantly communicating with each other. They're dancing at each other to tell each other what's going on. But in the case of oh, when do we all decide to become foragers? I would believe it would be like we just recognize there's not enough food. It's getting late. It's starting to get cold.
And so, surviving that long in a hive, months and months, they're eating honey. But I've heard that honey is bee vomit. Is that true, or is that false?
That's not true.
Not necessarily. Bees actually have two stomachs. They don't have, they have a way of transporting and they have a way of ingesting. And that's actually what the foragers do is they put it in that basically travel stomach. And then when they actually get back to the hive, they will pretty much regurgitate that, I guess, to the next bee who's right at the entrance waiting for it, rather than that bee then having to go all the way up in the hive and then come back out. It's always efficiency with bees, so if they can be efficient and just pass it off to the next bee and then go back out and forage more, then it works a little bit better. Once it's honey,
So the
it's
whole
honey.
process through, they haven't vomited any honey.
Yeah.
It's all the nectar area. And when it gets to the nectar and they dry the nectar and cap it, then it's honey.
Yep.
Can we talk about these bee products that you have?
Sure.
These are a little bit more specialized. What we actually do mostly in bee country, we basically supply other people that like to do this stuff. We don't make these candles, but we make a ton of bees wax, which we sell. It's actually the most specialized product we do have is the comb. That is one that takes us a long time to get that perfect, because a consumer won't buy a 90% done piece of comb. They want it 100% done. So we do sell a lot of honey in the jars like that locally. Pretty much become more suppliers for other places. Like a lot of people, they make mead. It's like a honey wine. We got several around here, and they use a lot of our honey for that.
Wow, can't believe how much we learned about bees. Let's get buzzing out by the hives. Okay, all right. Well, we're at the apiary, and clearly we're about to get into some misbehavior.
Okay, so basically, as soon as you come out here, you might want to make sure you get your smoker going. This is what pretty much tricks the bees into thinking there's a wild fire. That's kind of a trick of beekeeping. Pretty much everybody knows that, but they don't really know why. So you just kind of take the smoker and you smoke the front of it a little bit. Make sure that all the guard bees go into the hive and start consuming resources. The structure of the hive. So it's basically, I like to almost visualize from the outside. The bees always surround themselves with honey and nectar and pollen. They'll store it right in the cells. And then the brood will always be right in the middle, and that's basically because they always want to keep it warm. They're feeding the baby bees, and everything is really nice and tight in there, and that's kind of just the way they do it. So that's how you actually start inspecting your hives. Is you start with the outside frame, because you don't want to damage any of those baby bees and or any of the brood that might be in there. And it's actually, you can see all that shiny stuff. That's nice. Brand new nectar that they're getting from, that's right now is goldenrod bloom. So that's some of their stores for this winter. They're going to need a lot more than this, but that's a start.
So how many bees do you think are on that tray?
Yep,
frame.
this is a frame. There's really not that many bees on there. It gets way worse than this. Sometimes you'll have it where they are covering the entire thing, and that's where you would be getting up into like maybe the 2,000 range. And because there's not much to look at there, we just gave them this box a little bit ago. We're just gonna go right into this box to show you some other stuff. And you can kind of notice that you probably have this different idea in your head of how looking through a beehive would be. You thought probably that they would be bouncing off you like they are right now.
Oh my God. Okay.
But they kind of they're still protecting, but they're not really aggressive. It's
more curiosity right now.
And that's when they start poking up like that, their little heads starting to come up. That's where you know you got to use a little bit more smoke. This is really your biggest tool as a beekeeper is using that smoke, because you don't want to let them get too upset.
Pretty terrified.
How many times have you both been stung?
We get stung on a daily basis. It's basically a numbers thing. We look at so many bees. Yeah, you can see like how there's that many bees covering this frame now. Now this is a little bit better interpretation of what a hive should be looking like at this time. There's basically just bees everywhere, and actually if you look in here, all that cappings there's actually baby bees under there.
So what's the process of looking for the queen? Like I see you're searching through the frame. Is there any characteristics of the behavior?
There is. She's a little bit bigger. She gets mistaken a lot for the male honeybee, which is a little bit bigger as well. But the biggest thing is she looks just like a honeybee, and basically her abdomen is just longer. That's our queen right there. She's got a lovely white dot on her. That's actually a really cool frame, because you can see this side, they're working it very nicely, and if you actually flip that over.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
They'll figure it out. But
As long as the queen's not on
see this side? See how there's no bees, no nectar, no anything? That's basically what it would look like if the bees weren't taking care of it and weren't using it.
Thanks for showing us the nukes. I guess now let's check out what the nukes grow into. I'm terrified.
All right, so you're feeling a little bit of anxiety being around
Just a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So it's totally understandable. Humans, we're programmed to be scared of things that can hurt us. No one's taught, like, what does an angry bee look like versus just a bee? Because they're always buzzing,
Yeah.
always making noises. But the more time you spend around insects, the more you start to learn about them, the more comfortable and familiar you get with those behaviors that you have to look out for. Maybe it's all about just paying a little closer attention, like getting over a little bit of that fear, to look closer at the bug in front of you and think, okay, maybe I can start to recognize, like, what does a beehive sound like when it's pissed off versus, oh, that's just like a noise. That's just the noise they're making.
Yeah.
Like a cat is purring. A beehive's just buzzing around.
Okay, well maybe I won't be so afraid next time we get to the hive. Thanks, Annika. I think I'm ready to take on the hive. Let's do it.
So we're going to go quickly through these first three, but as you can see, and normally we wouldn't even take this top inner cover off.
I was going to show a little bit of
Just for the camera,
the difference here of resources, what we just showed you.
you're going to see that this hive is full of bees right from bottom to top.
And then
Oh, it's so sticky.
it is, it's very
You can
sticky.
tell it's so different from the last.
And this
The
is-
nukes. Wow.
Now this is because it's up out of, like, their brood nest is now down here where I was showing you before. The honey always surrounds the brood. This is so big that all the honey is up above the brood nest, and so you can see all the honey there. And you can even see through the cappings here, you can see different colors of honey. So this was, they always start kind of up and out. So this was older honey. This is probably a month ago's honey. And then this darker stuff was what is happening right now, which is probably goldenrod. And it's always hard telling. I hate putting a label on honey because it takes, I think it's 2 million flowers to make a teaspoon of honey.
So will honey from different types of flowers taste different?
Yes, yeah, it looks different, it tastes different. What we had on the jars on the table is our most common honey that we get and most in demand. People really love the light colored honey. It's kind of a little bit like maple syrup. Everybody wants the light maple syrup. We actually prefer the dark stuff because the dark has more flavor to it. Pretty much the darker it is, probably the more pollen and stuff like that is in it. One of the really cool ones that we make is buckwheat honey, and it is black. You can't even, you hold it up to the light, you can't even see through it compared to that stuff was really light. And they're actually doing tests on that, and they actually found that buckwheat is better for you than the Manuka honey that everybody pays like a ridiculous amount of money for.
Wow.
Now he's kind of down into the brood nest here.
Actually, that's pretty much honey too.
Yeah, I would say this is actually a lot of honey. By the weight of this, I say actually just take your glove there and feel the weight of this.
It's gonna be heavy.
Oh wow, no, that's
Yeah.
really heavy. So what are the actual honeycomb structures made of? That's also honey, or is it a
That's
different?
actually
Beeswax.
beeswax.
It's beeswax.
Yeah, it's
That's where, see here, this we call burr comb, because it's not where they normally put it. It's all wax.
and because it's darker like that, that's actually recycled wax. They've taken it from something else and put it in between these frames.
Wow. Whew. Okay.
See how
Sorry.
nice and light
Oh,
colored that is?
wow.
That's like brand new wax.
Okay.
It's something they just produced recently.
So where does the wax come from? Like,
They
it's
wax
all
it.
coming from. It's not coming from the flowers.
No.
It's coming from the.
Well,
Actually, in the long terms, yes, because
Okay.
they actually consume, I think it's like 8 pounds of honey to produce a pound of wax. So when they actually ingest the honey and actually, now is the other stomach, where they're actually eating it, then they'll actually produce wax. And it comes out of a wax gland in the back of their legs, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they'll produce that, and then they'll actually start making those hexagon shapes that all the honey and the pollen and the bees and everything is stored in those little containers.
Oh my
that's
goodness.
actually what they candles with.
Yep.
Pure beeswax.
So this eventually, if you get enough of it,
Yep.
would be a candle, or
would
could
be-
be a candle.
Could be, yeah.
Where do you? How do you spin it? It's like a salad spinner.
It's not a bad idea.
Is it
Basically,
a centrifuge?
it's a centrifugal. It just you load them up there, and it's like a washing machine. You just turn it up, and it spins it so fast that actually all this honey will be stored in there. But these cells are slightly sloped this way, so when you put the frames in there and you spin them really fast, they'll come flying out, and then it'll hit the outside of our spinner. And then it'll run down, and then we pump it into a barrel.
Wow. And
Here,
then,
this is all capped. And what we do is we just take these cappings off like that,
whoa.
so
Yeah,
it looks like
that's what everybody's used to, is just the honey.
that. And then we spin it, and only the honey.
It
comes
breaks so easily.
It does. It's very fragile.
out. It is.
Wow.
But they'll be able to fix that. They'll fix that in literally like an hour.
What?
They can fix that because they don't want to lose. They put so much time and effort into that honey that they'll fix
Yeah.
that. They'll be like top priority when he puts it back in there. You know, beekeepers get this rap for essentially stealing too much from them, or basically just trying to suck what they can off these bees. What we actually do in our jobs are literally going down through and seeing if we can help these bees in any way do what they naturally do. This is what they want to naturally do. They want to make a ridiculous amount of honey, more than they could ever possibly need. Pretty much we let bees be bees. They're very good at what they do. Trying to manipulate them and get them to do what people want them to do is not so easy. You kind of can't really tell an insect what to do, and they don't really follow instructions very well.
Well, I had a question about bee products, and you all sell like pure raw honey from your hives, but what about what's on the shelves at the grocery stores?
It's actually a big problem that America has, is actually importing Chinese honey. It's not really honey, it's actually rice syrup a lot of times. And they'll bring it in and they'll sell it in big chain stores and stuff like that. So the people who are buying that little bear, the little squeeze bear that everybody thinks of as honey, probably 90% of the time that is not pure honey. That has probably been cut with something, and or maybe it's a more of a syrup than it is honey.
So what about the honey jars that it says it's like from Brazil / USA / like of many other countries? How can one jar of honey be from so many places?
That is basically because they buy it from multiple. They buy it as cheap as they possibly can, and then they dump it in this giant thing, and then they bottle it. And so they have no way of telling where it actually came from.
So you study bugs, right? So
Yes.
not specifically bees, but bugs. And bugs pollinate, right?
Yeah, tons of insects pollinate. So honeybees, huge pollinators, but they're not actually native to the US. And we have a ton of different bee species in the contiguous US. In New York State, we have over 400 species of native bees. And so when we talk about saving the bees, we can talk about helping out your local beekeeper by buying honey local. We can talk about planting wildflowers, and anything you do that's like that will also help your native bees. So just don't mow your back lawn, or don't mow a strip of it. Leave a bunch of wildflowers out. The honeybees will thank you, the native bees will thank you, and all of the other pollinators that do a lot of stuff that we don't even sometimes think of as pollinators. And by keeping all of your native biodiversity from flowers, other plants, you're helping all biodiversity. More different types of plants, more different types of bees, helping your honeybees as well. You just have a healthier ecosystem.
I love this. Great notes from Annika, our resident entomologist. Thank you, Annika.
Sure thing.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike, for having us at the Bee Country Honeybee Farm. We learned so much today, right, Annika?
Yeah, we learned about hive upkeep, about nukes, about different kinds of honey. So much to learn.
Yeah, how to maintain hives, all the different types of honey, and it was incredible. I feel like we learned so much, but we also barely scratched the surface, right?
Yeah, we've been doing it for about 15 years, and we feel like we've just scratching the surface too. We learn something new every day.
It's a nerdy job.
It is.
But it's not a job when you love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's why it makes it a unique sort of thing, and that's why a lot of people just don't know about it too. So it's really nice that you guys came out and got to spotlight this a little bit for us. So
thanks for having us. And where can we learn more about Bee Country Honeybee Farm?
yeah, you can go to beecountry.net, and we have a lot of different stuff on there, all of our products, and pretty much anything we're involved in is on that website, and it's a pretty good spot to start.
Awesome. We'll definitely check that out, and you can follow Nerdy Jobs to see what other jobs we get into, all the science shenanigans on the way. Follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time. Now I know my ABCs. Do I know them? We'll see. People are gonna be grossed out that I don't have socks on, so don't record this part.